Welcome to Far From Perfect with Manny Covington. I'm your host, Manny Covington, and I am far from perfect. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in. This is the first episode, and I'm so excited to see what this podcast has for the future and just what's the future of the podcast looks like. I know I said that in the trailer episode. I don't know what the future looks like, but I'm super excited to have you all join me along for the ride. Now, this first episode is just going to be doing a brief thing about motivation. And I am a recent college graduate. I graduated college in December 2022. And from that time, I have been studying for the CPA exam. I graduated with an accounting degree and I'm studying to become a certified public accountant. And there's 4 sections on the test. And that's kind of where I got this first idea of motivation from. Because staying motivated to study for this exam has been really tough, if I'm being completely honest. I'm away from all my college friends. I went to college about 2 hours away from here. I'm studying accounting, and it's not all day. Like, I've been studying like a couple hours a day, which honestly hasn't been too bad in terms of taking the time to study every day, but it does get tedious. And honestly, while I do enjoy accounting, it's not the thing that I wake up in the morning and be like, ooh, I'm gung-ho, get ready to do some accounting. I love it. Like, again, I do enjoy it, but it's nothing like me making music or trying to figure out the best plan to get credit card points. Like, yeah, I do enjoy it, but staying motivated for something that you're not necessarily gung-ho that passionate about is tough. And just thinking about ways to stay motivated and how I've been able to stay motivated is kind of just something that I want to get into in this. So staying motivated in this and staying motivated about stuff in general, honestly, it's either going to be intrinsic or extrinsic. And if you couldn't tell, the intrinsic motivation definitely isn't as high as the extrinsic motivation for me. Because with the intrinsic motivation of studying for the CPA exam, it's something that I'm going to be able to accomplish. It's a hard 4 test. And just be able to say that I accomplished that is definitely ranking highest in my intrinsic motivation side. But looking at the extrinsic factors, like going to be able to earn more, gonna have CPA at the end of my name, which it's no doctor before the name, but I wasn't gonna become a doctor. Shout out anyone who goes through med school and does it. That's just not for me. Shout out mom for becoming a doctor. But staying motivated is tough, especially when I'm not surrounded every day by some of my friends who are also studying for the CPA exam, whether they're working or they're still back in school. Yes, it honestly is pretty tough, staying motivated, staying upbeat, waking up every morning and like, all right, I'm gonna get these 2 hours done, and then the next morning I'm gonna do it again, and then I'm gonna do it again, and then I take the test, and then okay, I took that one, now there's 3 more. So honestly, it is pretty hard staying motivated, but I think reminding myself of why I'm doing this can definitely help with the motivation and just making sure that I'm staying consistent. Because honestly, it's more of staying consistent with it than the actual motivation. Because if I only went off motivation, there would be a lot of things that I didn't do day to day because I didn't feel motivated for it that day. And a lot of things that I would just stop because I'm like, I don't want to do this in general. So I think it's more of a consistency basis more than a motivation basis, which kind of changes the topic to is motivation necessary? And I do think motivation is necessary. I think at a certain point, willpower and consistency, you're going to need something there, whether you think it's there, whether you see it consciously or subconsciously. I think there's something there to keep it going, but I think it's more about consistency and discipline rather than motivation. Because like I said, I don't want to make my bed every day. I don't wake up in the morning going, wow, I get to make my bed today. Like, I'm not motivated to make my bed, but I know that starting off something small like that can definitely help in the long term. I'm not always motivated to work out. I enjoy working out. I definitely enjoy working out more than I enjoy studying for the CPA exam. But there's days where I wake up and I'm like, I really don't want to work out today. And I haven't worked out today yet. So I'm going to have to get on that. But there's just things that, while sometimes I think motivation kind of ebbs and flows. Like, there can be days where you're highly motivated to do something, and there's days where you're lowly motivated to do something. And I just think, like, again, that consistency. And again, I don't always get this right. I'm being completely honest. There are days where I woke up, I'm like, I really don't want to study today, and I just straight out didn't. And yes, there was a lack of motivation there, and then there was also the lack of making myself do something that I didn't want to do, which happens a lot in life as I continue to learn as I get older. I mean, you see it as a kid, when you're not making your own decisions, when you're listening to your parents. I mean, I still do listen to my parents, but it's definitely different than when you're an adult now, where the responsibility, the decisions that you have to make, it's on you. And if you just rely on motivation and doing what you want to do, then you're probably not going to end up in the spot in life that you should be or that you want to be. It's kind of weird. Like, you want to make decisions that want to further you, but at the same time, there's also a lot of decisions that we make, myself included, that just benefit us in the short term. And it's just funny to think, again, we want what's best for us in the long term, but we make a lot of those decisions that are best for us in the short term and not the long term. So it's kind of like that cognitive dissonance in our head. And I think motivation can play a big factor into that, because what you may be motivated by today might not be the same, probably won't be the same thing you're motivated by in 5-10 years, unless it's something like, a spouse, your kids. I hope you would stay motivated to do things for your kids and your spouse 10 years down the line, actually for however long you're alive. But just saying, some of the smaller things that we're motivated by, like the day-to-day stuff, you don't know how long that's going to be there. So it's definitely more of staying consistent and making sure that you're staying disciplined, whether the motivation is high or the motivation is low. And that's a reminder for myself. Again, this podcast, Far From Perfect with Manny Covington, it's in the name. I'm far from perfect as well. And I'm kind of reminding myself, I have to remind myself that, yeah, there's going to be days where I'm not motivated to do any of the stuff that I know will set me up well in the future, but I know that I'm still going to need to do it, because I don't want to look back 5-10 years down the line and be like, wow, I really wish I studied harder for the CPA exam. I really wish I continued to work out, because if I would have kept those long-term goals in mind, then the short-term motivation might have changed, or maybe it wouldn't have changed, but I still would have been more consistent to do it. And I think, again, like, that's the key. Motivation is great. Motivation's going to be there sometimes. It's not going to be there sometimes. But we can't base our decisions off of our motivations when they're going to be changing all the time. Again, there's some core motivations, but a lot of our motivations, and even how much motivation we're feeling to do a certain thing, is going to ebb and flow. So let me know what you think about motivations, about how you feel about being consistent, like what's more important, motivation, consistency, discipline. Let me know how you feel. This has been Far From Perfect with Manny Covington. I'm Manny Covington, and I'm far from perfect. I'll see you next time.